these definitions are articulated in 4 design concepts: information design, interface design, navigation design, and interaction design. The main objective of information design is to ensure that all available content presented on an interface is intelligible to the people who it's addressed to, as well as appropriated to the medium and to the kind of desired message to be transmitted. On the interactive digital television applications context, information design is responsible for presenting the inventory of all contents, texts, images, sounds, videos, animations, etc., that will be in the application, as well for the organization of these contents into hierarchical levels and the recommendations of possible actions happening between them and their interactors. Here, the same interface presents several types of information transmitted through images, texts, headings, lists, etc., in different hierarchical levels. Thus, the way this information is allocated, organized, and related to the other contents and elements of the interfaces compromises directly the teleinteractor understanding of the messages that the television medium carries, and consequently compromises the interactive choices. This way, if we consider an educatively related application for interactive digital television focused on the teleinteractor literacy, the information design is responsible for presenting and organizing all contents in layers to be widely understandable and accessible to illiterate teleinteractors. About the interface design in an interactive digital television instance, the interface is the point of contact between the teleinteractor and what has been transmitted through the television. Besides presenting visual elements such as colors, typography, and forms lined up to the visual identity proposed by the television shows, the application's interfaces for interactive digital television need to establish a dialogical relation between the teleinteractor, its actions, and the television contents. In this example of the interactive application designed for the Brazilian soap opera from TV Globo broadcaster called Caminho das Índias, in Portuguese, Caminho das Índias means Road to India, it's possible to note the elements in its interface inspired by the Hindu culture, that is the theme of the narrative. In this sense, if we consider an educative application for interactive digital television approaching aspects of Italian Renaissance, for example, the interface design is responsible for the adoption and composition of the elements which make it possible to establish significant relations with the subject and stimulate the cognitive process of the teleinteractor to establish the relationship with the subject. About the navigation design, the interactive digital television, in interactive digital television, the same television program is able to offer a significant amount of complementary information to its main content, or structuralize itself in a way that it has diverse levels of information. In this context, the navigation design defines the path the teleinteractor needs to access all available contents, as well to locate themselves in this informational space. For example, in this application for the Brazilian Soccer Championship in 2010, when we access the icon in the shape of a football field, a second menu with 3 options becomes available. And the related information to each item starts to be shown on the right side of the interface. To indicate to the teleinteractor its localization along its navigation, the picture of a soccer ball is positioned in each item as you move through the options. Here. In this sense, the navigation design for an educative application for interactive digital television related to historical facts, for example, could contribute to the student's learning process by offering accessible ways to allow the teleinteractor to choose information from a timeline, associating the historical events chronologically, as well as choosing from a selection of links regarding groups and politicians, learning the ideals and motives of each one and their relation with historical events. In applications for interactive digital television, the interaction design defines the range of interactivity that the teleinteractor has in the application and how the system responds to their actions. In the educative-related application program, The Life of Mammals Interactive, broadcasted by BBCI channel, the teleinteractor is invited to interact by taking a quiz about the subject approached at the moment. However, interactive digital television can propitiate interactivity in more complex levels in order to widen the relation between audience television and audience television audience. For instance, the teleinteractors can send contents or interact between themselves, establishing a full interactivity with the television content and becoming an emitting pole in this communication process indeed. All these examples illustrate how the production for interactive digital television have been dealt with in the context of mimicry of the digital language standards already in existence, such as the web. These kinds of applications are minimizing television to being just a platform for providing additional contents to the broadcast programs. And this causes the characterization of the television language. Apart from the context of interactive digital television applications and e-learning platforms, some solutions developed for the web illustrates the possibilities of language hybridism and the digital platform resources exploration. One of them is the Adobe Museum of Digital Media, a project from the software company Adobe, created to showcase and preserve groundbreaking digital work and expert commentary to illustrate how digital media shapes and impacts today's society. Here, the video is the main resource used and works as an integrated form with the other visual and sonorous elements. That means that there's no division of space for each type of information. They all together form a hybrid informational space. What leads us to conclude that a program for interactive digital television must be born interactive, so that the television and the digital interactive languages naturally become hybrid, considering that the interaction possibilities interfere directly under the program script that also impacts all the design elements. Since the interactive digital television consists of a new medium with a new technology still in the phase of implementation and of experimental character in considerable parts of countries, it's understandable that the projectual definitions to its design have not been fully developed. Thus, the research with a view to the design of educative-related applications for interactive digital television, such as the one presented here, helps the process of identification of the best practices and appropriate design solutions to the development of the new products to this media, in a way that it also contributes to the democratization of the access to education and information. So this is what we wanted to show you. Thanks for your attention, and we'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.